Hey guys, John here. So I just finished watching a video from Andy Sterkowitz, and it's the one you can see right there, and I highly recommend it. And I agree with what he has to say, but I think I can add on here. So first I want to just note what I liked about his video, and then I will explain the view, which I think is a tactic that will really help you not get fired in your first job. So the target audience here would be basically just your first job. You might have gone to university or maybe you're self-taught. It doesn't matter. The idea here is that you haven't had a lot of experience, and so that you're presented with a new challenge and you don't know what to do, and how do you handle that? And his answer is, don't freak out. Like, just accept it as normal because it is, and he's so right. Even as an experienced programmer, a lot of the tasks that we're given, we have not seen before in their exact implementation. We've seen something like it. A lot of them we have seen before, but it's very, very common to have to do something in a new way. Every project is different. And so Google is your best friend, and Stack Overflow is your best friend, and you are searching. And that ability to learn quickly and continuous learning is a key skill for a developer. It's also normal to not even understand how to do it right out of the gate. You might not even understand the requirement right away. And it's a sign of a good developer, not a weak developer, when you take the time to clarify the requirement. And so the person who asks you to do X, the very first thing you say is, hey, let me understand what you mean by X. And so you talk to them. You can have like a little meeting if you want to. Maybe you take a whole day just gathering and clarifying requirements and asking for revision to acceptance criteria. You might take another whole day to kind of plan the implementation and talk to your other developers, because even if you have one or more ways, by the way, there's often multiple ways to implement requirements, right? But you need to make sure you implement in a way that's acceptable to your co-developers. And this is going to be a great way to keep yourself from getting fired too, is make sure you are doing things the way that the other developers want you to do them. Not only technically, but also socially. Huge advantage and way you're not going to get fired is just have good relationships with your other developers. They want you to succeed if they like you, and they want you gone if they don't like you. So personality and social skills are actually going to be a huge advantage here. So software developers are notorious for a lack of social skills. So that is a margin where you don't really need technical training. If you have social skills, you're going to have competitive advantage and build relationships with your other developers, build relationships with your manager. If you're well-liked, people are going to love helping you out, and they're going to devote extra time to making sure you succeed. People might cover for you if you're taking a little longer. If they like you, they'll say, hey, this guy's new, like back off, like give him a little bit of time. If they don't like you, they're going to be like, yeah, this guy, he keeps taking up all my time. I'm trying to do stuff. So use those social skills to your advantage. That's one tip that I would add on to what Andy had to say. But Andy is so right that don't freak out when you get something that you don't know how to do. And the one technique that I would add there is take a day, up to a day, to understand the requirements, up to a day to plan the implementation, plan it, not writing any code, just planning it and talking to developers. And then take up to a third day to actually write some code and get it working. If after 3 days you are starting to have trouble with a task, and if it's considered a small to medium-sized task, that is going to be what I would call a yellow flag, and I'll circle back to that in a minute. But if it's a large task, that's totally normal. Even as an experienced developer, sometimes we have large tasks that might take us a whole sprint, which is to say like 1 to 2 weeks. And if it is known ahead of time that it's a large task, that's not a big deal. Even if it's discovered in the planning phase that the whole team thinks it's a large task, still not a big deal. As long as you kind of raise that up and you tell your manager, you're like, hey, the team talked about it, we're going to go this direction, but it is kind of a larger estimate than we initially thought. That's super normal. What's a yellow flag is if most of the team thinks it's a small task, but for you it's a large task. And that's a yellow flag, not a red flag, if you are known to be a junior developer. If you are a senior developer, or you somehow got into a senior developer role, and the team thought a task was small, and it took you a long time, and you weren't able to justify why it took you a long time, that's a red flag, not a yellow flag. But sometimes the person implementing it is going to just have local knowledge that other people don't have, and as long as you can explain it, like, hey guys, like I was with you, we all thought this was going to be small, but I ran into X. And if it's true, right, you're not just BSing, it's like you really ran into a technical problem, that happens too. So even if the team thinks it was a small task and it ends up being big, that's still a yellow flag. It's only a red flag if there's no good reason. Like, there's no good reason that it should be taking you this long. So here's the U, right? So the U is you are planning and you are understanding requirements take a day. So these are short tasks. So a lot of your stuff you can knock out quickly. Then you are trying it and it can take you a while, and that's fine. So you're at the bottom. And this is where the self-reliance kicks in. Then you need to raise it back up if it's taking you a long time. This is the other side of the U. So if it's taking you more than 3 to 5 days for what's regarded as a small to medium-sized task, here's my advice to you. Learn to, with calmly, right, respectfully, politely, in a socially nice way, just raise it back up first to the other developers. They're going to be on your side if they're good. If they're crummy developers, crummy developers have sometimes poor personalities. But if they're good developers, they're going to want to protect you. And actually, if you have a good manager, it's the same thing. So raise it up and say, hey guys, I talked to everyone and I've been working on this, but remember, you're going through the middle. So the bottom part is you don't know, but you're still grinding on it. You're not asking for help. You're just trying to do it yourself. And give that like 1 to 3 days. And if you're making progress, then you have daily stand-up, give your updates, and say, hey, I'm not done, but I'm making progress. I can see the finish line. Only say that if it's true. If it's not true, if you really are just stuck in a rut for like multiple days and you're literally not making progress, it's time to raise that back up. Okay? And just tell them. Just cop to it calmly. There's no problem with it. You're a junior developer. This is expected in some cases. It shouldn't be every requirement. It shouldn't be every user story if you're following Agile. And by the way, you should be following Agile. We'll circle back to that in a minute. So knowing when to raise things up is the sign of a talented junior. Knowing when to raise things up is the sign of a talented junior. Knowing your own limitations is the sign of a talented junior. Here's who I've seen get fired. People who don't know how to get the job done, and they are afraid to say they don't know how to get the job done. So the job keeps not getting done. The job is supposed to be done this sprint. It was supposed to be a quick task, but it took all sprint, and you're still not done. It rolls over to the next sprint. 3 strikes and you're out. This is a good rule of thumb. If you have a task that was supposed to take less than 1 sprint, and it ends up going into the 3rd sprint, you are in danger of being fired. I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen with senior developers, actually. I've seen multiple very senior developers in the sense of basically they have a lot of years of experience, not in the sense of they're very talented. They were afraid to say, I just can't get it done. I just don't know how to do this, right? They're been in the industry 20 years, but they're dealing with a new problem, and because they're so veteran, this is actually not a junior problem. This is like a senior trap, if you will. They're so veteran that they feel that they are supposed to be able to get it done, and that asking for help is the sign of weakness. No, we're all continuously learning. If you've been here 20 years, you're still dealing with 2 to 3 years of knowledge, because at least in web technologies and JavaScript, the spec is updated so frequently. So no one really has 20 years of experience. You might have been a software engineer for 20 years, but we're not doing the things people did 20 years ago. So that's kind of a great equalizer in tech, and it's great if you have a passion for learning. Okay, so to recap what we've talked about so far. 1, agree with Andy, you need to develop grit and self-reliance. Don't immediately ask for help. Start by asking for input and understanding. You're going the way down, you're going towards the time when you're going to actually take a crack at it. It's going to make you look really good if you can clarify requirements effectively and if you can include your team's input before you start writing code. So this is the down on the U. And this is just free time for you, because that's like up to 3 days. That this might be a 1-hour task, but you're having like 3 days to do it just because you're basically strategically sandbagging, intelligently sandbagging. That's a term, sandbagging. You're drawing it out. But no one's going to question it because you're drawing it out for a good reason. You want to understand the requirements. You want to understand the business process. Talk to the business analyst. Talk to the tester if you have these guys. Talk to the designer. And talk to your co-developers above all. Because it's not good enough to implement it. You have to implement it the way the team wants you to implement it. And this is really going to endear you to your co-developers. So free time, and then you're grinding it out if you have to. And you're at the bottom of that U, right? And like Andy said, don't just go whining, right? We know that you're going to have to Google. Give it a few days. If you've really understood the problem very well, and you've tried it for a few days, and you're not making progress, time to raise it back up. That's the U. So we recap, we talked about the U. 2, we talked about the importance of social skills. And 3, I said we'll circle back to this agile thing, the user story thing. These are some skills that you can have that are going to help you not get fired in your first job. Don't just be a programmer. Know the other aspects of the job. And one of those is agile. So Google around, learn how agile process works a little bit. Watch some YouTube videos, take a quick Pluralsight course. If you understand how the agile process works, even at a high level, you're going to have an advantage over somebody who they may know how to code, but they don't understand requirements gathering and stuff like that. So understand, and here's another thing you can do outside of programming, although you might think this is related to programming, that is understand how to use Git and source control management. Now, I recommend to people that they create a GitHub account and upload a bunch of code, basically. Do some tutorials, fine. And also make sure you have at least one project which you have come up with on your own, and it has concrete value. It's not just a tutorial. You didn't just do it for the sake of learning. You did it to accomplish some goal. So here's an example. I set up a website for my digital resume. Right? I want to have a digital resume that I can share out. I set up a website as my own portfolio. We all have GitHub, we all have LinkedIn, but I wanted to create a nice, visually customized portfolio. So I did it my way on my own website. So that's another example. Here's a third example. I created a website because I would like to blog, and I'd like to get my thoughts and ideas out there and influence people and kind of enter the larger online conversation. I actually have an article about this. I'll put it in the description. This is called Path to a Software Development Career. I recommend you start out with web technologies. And as I mentioned, do your interview prep and get ready to tackle some questions. Get a GitHub with some example projects, and make sure at least one of those example projects you came up with yourself. It's not just a tutorial. And here's some examples I said. Build the resume. Here's another example. I just made this up. It's great if you can make it up. And if I can ask you, so why did you do that? And the answer is whatever it might be. I thought it was fun. I thought it's interesting. I'm obsessed with video games. I had a thing for this TV show, or if it's something that you came up with, as opposed to, well, I did it because I want to learn, or I did it because this tutorial told me to. Those are ones you're going to stay away from. So here's something that I might do, although I'm not necessarily saying that you do this one specifically, and that is make a web page where someone can enter investment details and then compare the 10 and 20-year return. A tool that gets the latest tweets from some people you follow, just like the Twitter homepage, but allow the user to give different weights. I really wish somebody would do that. If you end up doing that, let me know. Because I do care about what some people are saying more than what other people are saying. Cool, anything you can think of. And that's actually the best one. If you can think of an interesting thing that has a value to yourself. Like this one, it's like, yeah, I made it because I was tired of wasting my time on Twitter, just reading all this garbage. I wanted to kind of float certain people to the top. So we can see that that's like a valuable time saver, right? Or at least an interesting project that you came up with on your own. Okay, so you do that. Right, and if you do that with GitHub, you're going to have to learn how to use Git. Because GitHub uses Git. That's all there is to it. I think that's about it. Those are the tips I have for you. So I agree with Andy. Develop some self-reliance and become comfortable with the process that you may not know how to solve it right out of the gate, and that's quite normal, even for seasoned veterans. Like a seasoned veteran myself, I might know maybe 3/4 or half the time some implementations that could work, but I still need to clarify requirements, and I still need to get the okay from my team. Because honestly, there's so many ways to implement these things. Like somebody tells you, hey, I want this picture. Okay, should it be an image tag? Should I, is there any animation involved? Is it going to be an SVG? How am I going to get that data? Is it going to come from the server? Is it going to be a flat file? If it's SVG, it could be an JSON response as a string. Is it going to be a string, or is it going to be like a binary file? So many questions. You got to clarify this stuff, and that's normal even for a veteran. So first of all, like Andy said, develop some self-reliance and don't freak out. Calm, collected. Second of all, use the you. Show that you're calm and collected, and that you know how to ask intelligent questions to clarify requirements and to okay things with your team. 3, use those social skills. Between 2 and 3, here's one that you can do to endear yourself to the developers. Ask if you can peer code with another developer who's more senior for maybe the first week or 2 that you're there. Peer coding is it's been scientifically shown in studies, it's a great way to learn. And it's also going to show you that company's business process in particular, and that those developers, how they like to implement things there. Even in JavaScript, even in the programming world, there isn't one way to implement most of these things. Angular, which I recommend a lot of people learn Angular, highly opinionated framework, which means that it narrows the range of acceptable implementations, but there are still a bunch. So that project, those developers at that project are going to have a certain way that they like it done. So just shadow them. Even me, a veteran guy, if I'm new to a project, I am going to ask at least for 1 to 3 days, probably not a whole week, but I'm going to say, hey, can I have one day where y'all kind of give me the rundown about the history of the project, technically and from a business perspective. 2, can I have at least one day where I'm just sitting with one of these guys and just peer coding? Maybe my first user story or first couple of tickets, I will want to peer code those. Cool. So then the social skills, and then 4, do stuff other than program. And this is meaning no agile, no source control management. And just keep continuously educating yourself, right? Like I said, there's no one who really has 20 years of experience because programming itself is changing so quickly. So use that to your advantage. It's a great equalizer. Your skill is going to be you are a continuous learner, and you're learning on the side. You're doing your day job, and then a few hours a week, you're reading articles about the new cutting-edge technology. You're trying little experiments in your own time. And if you keep that habit up, you're going to quickly rise above many other developers because a lot of them aren't doing that. And you're going to get ahead of them. Okay, that's my advice.